of absolute defiance in the prison cell he would live in for the next 27 years. I've stood in that cell on Robben Island. When he was eventually elected the president of South Africa, he courageously implemented the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to keep his country from imploding. One of my all-time favorite Mandela quotes came at the infamous Rivonia trial when he said that ending apartheid was a cause he was fully prepared to fight for every remaining day of his life. And if need be, he said, it is a cause for which I am fully prepared to die. A cause for which I am fully prepared to die. I would call that courage. Is it any wonder why Mandela inspired millions to join his cause and left a legacy of courage for future generations of leaders to aspire to? In the next few moments, I want to build a case for the fact that courage, old-fashioned fortitude, and bravery correlates to every single component of leadership. Every one. And because vision has and always will be the most potent offensive weapon in the leader's arsenal, let's start with it and see how critical courage is to vision. Vision, as you know, I've described it to you many times in the past. Vision is a picture of the future that creates passion in people. A picture of the future that creates passion in people. In recent years, I've been reminding you God didn't make you a leader so that you can merely preside over something, or so that you can protect your position, or so that you can pontificate to others how smart you are. God made you a leader, remember I've drawn this the last several years, to move people from here to where? To there. To move people from here to there. To make people so discontent about the way things are, to build that logical, airtight case. We cannot stay here. And then when you've convinced them of that, then you say, we can, with God's help, go there. And then you describe how wonderful, how magnificent, how fantastic it's going to be when you go there. Now, it looks so easy when I just walk up to a flip chart and draw that line. Every veteran leader I know could show you the ugly battle scars from moving people from here to there. It requires far more courage than onlookers could ever imagine. Now, our most recent journey at Willow Creek, moving people from here to there, involved the construction on our campus of our new care center, which was completed and opened a few months ago. This ministry provides food and clothing distribution, legal aid, job training, dental and optometry services, a ministry that fixes cars for single moms. Now, these ministries used to be spread out in industrial areas very far away from our church. They were kind of out of sight, out of mind. And we thought it was time to bring all home to our campus and accentuate them and grow them. Now, on the face of it, such a construction initiative shouldn't have required unusual levels of bravery, except for the fact that our elders made the decision to move ahead with this construction project in the heart of the deepest recession of our lifetimes. Now, their reasoning was flawless from a theological perspective. The recession was causing enormous suffering for the poor who live within 30 minutes of our church. So if we take the teachings of Jesus seriously, we should step out in faith and offer additional help to people who were suffering and couldn't feed their families. That's all good. Except for that tiny little detail that we needed to raise the money from a congregation who was being badly battered by the very same recession. Hundreds of Willow people had lost their cars, had lost their jobs, had lost their homes. And how can I say this diplomatically? No one at Willow was really in the mood for a $10 million fundraiser on top of the $30 million annual operating budget that we were $2 million behind at the time. And I'll never forget the night before I was asked to walk on this stage and to stand in this exact spot to announce that exciting and very expensive building program to our congregation. I was praying Joshua's prayer on my knees in my home. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. God is with you. He will never forsake you. I needed a fresh infusion of courage that day, and God, by His grace, granted it to me, and I stood right here and cast that vision to our congregation. Now, what made this Care Center Challenge even more interesting, I say this parenthetically, is that the leadership team I had assembled to build the building happened to all be women. Now, we believed in women in leadership since day one at Willow, but when these fired up women who called themselves the Fabulous Five, I had other names for them, I kept that in my head. But when they would meet with me throughout this project to make changes to the building or try to add another 10,000 square feet to the project, I'd have to pray on my knees again. Be strong and courageous, do not be afraid. Would you want to tussle with a group of women called the Fab Five? No. Over the course of the 3-year Care Center construction project, we experienced in a very unique way God being with us, like the verse says. We actually saw and felt God move supernaturally. I believe He was rewarding our courage and our collective faith. In fact, the entire $10 million was raised in record time. The entire building was paid for in full before we broke ground. This was the first time in 38 years that had ever happened. I don't know that it will ever happen again. When we opened up that building, it was one of the most memorable weekends in the history of our church. I want to show you just a couple of pictures of it before I move on and make a very important point. First, you'll see a picture of the exterior. It's connected right to our building. We wanted to make it as welcoming as we possibly could. On the inside of the building, we made a lot of lobby space because before this game, when people came to our care center, they stood in 6 inches of snow in the winter time without proper coats or boots, no bathrooms, little kids shivering out in the cold. When I talked to our congregation about the building of this building, and then I took them back from here to there, I would stand right here and say to the congregation, it's just not right that we treat hungry people with such lack of dignity. It's not right to have 150 people stand in a line in the cold. It's not right. We can do better. We should do better. And I kept building that vision of we can't stay here. And I would show pictures of that new, beautiful lobby with restrooms and warmth and all that kind of stuff. And the church got fired up. We used to just hand out bags of groceries. And we said, that's not right either. Let's do a full choice grocery store. Full choice. There's dignity in choice. Instead of just being given a bag. And then we added a clothing boutique. And we said, let's all take our gently used clothing or buy new clothing for kids and let's make it available. We can do this. And our church has responded unbelievably. We added dental suites because there's a lot of people in our area without any health insurance. And so dentists come and volunteer their time. It's a really cool deal. Optometry services. And then as you've heard me talk about in summits past, we have this really cool cars ministry where we challenge all the more affluent people in our church, if they don't absolutely have to have the trade-in value of their car when they're going to replace it, to donate it to the church. Our volunteer mechanics fix whatever needs fixing, and then we place it in the hands of a single mom. It's life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. If someone needs transportation and can't get it for their church, to offer them such a solution. And so we put all those ministries together and built that building. One of the celebration days, we gathered our congregation in the parking lot. And that's actually thousands of people from our congregation. That's a helicopter shot. And those are just, again, thousands of people. And now that whole ministry is up and just doing great. That Fab Five did an awesome job. And if I can be serious for just a moment, why any senior pastor would keep capable, fired up women from full deployment within the church is just beyond me. I don't know. The major point I'm making here, though, is every significant vision that God births in you is going to put your courage to the test. You can count on this. Every time a leader attempts to move people from here to there, the leader knows deep down in their heart that a certain percentage of the people are going to resist moving. They're going to say, I don't care how full the vision is, how many people it helps, I'm not going. The leader knows that another group of people are going to have a wait-and-see attitude, and they're going to need persuasion over time. And every leader knows how ugly it would be to move an effort, a cause, or a group of people halfway and then not be able to finish the job. And so that paralyzes a lot of leaders with fear. Every vision tests the mettle of every leader. So guess what lots of leaders do when they get a cool and challenging vision from God? They abort the vision secretly. No kidding. They kill it off quietly without telling anybody about it. This happens all the time. Who's ever going to know? Fear grips the leader. So to play it safe, they FedEx that cool vision back to God, and they say, no thanks, God, too risky. Send it to some other idiot. See how he does. See how he does. Don't send it to me. Too risky. Gang, I live with a deep-seated